Discover the incredible journey of a dying millionaire and the beautiful doctor who inspired a legacy of hope. Charles Dalton sat alone in his expansive mansion, the echo of his footsteps swallowed by the cavernous silence of rooms filled with memories he could barely touch. At 65, he was a self-made millionaire, the king of an empire crafted from late nights and ceaseless ambition, but today, a shroud of despair enveloped him. His doctor, a stoic man whose eyes spoke what his words could not, had delivered the news: terminal illness. The conclusions of decades of relentless pursuit had crashed into a stark reality. Charles felt the weight of loneliness settle on his chest, a harsh reminder of the family he had sacrificed on the altar of success. His estranged daughter, Lily, a dedicated nurse at the local hospital, had grown weary of trying to reach him, driven away by his persistent quest for wealth and her own struggles in an unforgiving healthcare system. Memories of her laughter echoed like faint ghosts through the halls of this now empty mansion. His soul ached for her touch, her forgiveness. Would she hear him out? Could they ever mend the frayed bond that once brought him joy? As the days blurred into weeks, destiny intervened in the form of Emma, a warm-hearted doctor revered in their small Midwestern town. Known for her unwavering support of local veterans, she embodied the very support and compassion that Charles had neglected in his relentless climb. When their paths crossed unexpectedly at the hospital, her piercing blue eyes sparked a flicker of something hope. Reconciliation? Perhaps, but it was powerful enough for Charles to reach out and ask for her help, not just with his medical needs but to build a bridge to his daughter. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With Emma at his side, Charles ventured into the heart of their community, a place that echoed with the dreams of its residents. Conversations flowed, dreams of a renovated hospital blossomed, and for the first time, Charles began to glimpse the warmth of human connection he had ignored for so long. It ignited a desire in him, a yearning to rewrite his narrative. Yet, the road was fraught with conflict. Attempting to reconnect with Lily revealed deep, festering wounds. The stark economic disparity between them loomed large, threatening to drown any hope of healing. Could Lily forgive a father who had seemingly chosen success over her? The weight of regret pressed heavily on Charles, while doubt twisted in Lily's heart, unsure if trust could ever be rebuilt. As tension peaked, the arrival of the community center's impending closure sparked a pivotal confrontation. Charles stood in front of the dilapidated building, a place that once thrived with laughter and joy. He faced a choice: perpetuate a facade of redemption or make a selfless commitment that would truly change lives. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. Would he find the courage to embrace his transformation, to reach out and change the course of their family dynamic? The question lingered like a heartbeat, leaving one undeniable reality clear: life was ticking away, and every moment was a chance for redemption. Standing before the weathered facade of the community center, Charles felt the weight of all his past decisions crashing down around him. This building was more than just bricks and mortar, it held the laughter of children, the resilience of families, and the whispers of dreams long forgotten. But it also mirrored his own life, how the pursuit of success had overshadowed everything he once held dear. Emma's gentle touch broke through his reverie. "You know, this place can still shine again. But it needs someone who believes in it, someone who believes in the community," she urged, her voice steady yet tender. He turned to her, a mix of gratitude and uncertainty in his heart. Emma wasn't just a doctor here, she was the lifeblood of this town. Her compassion reminded him of what he had lost, not only with Lily but with every community member he had overlooked during his rise to wealth. "I want to help. I really do," he confessed, the words spilling from his lips like a long overdue apology. "But will they accept me? Will she?" Emma placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You can't know unless you try, Charles. Reaching out to your daughter is just as important as this center. One step at a time, you can rebuild what has been lost. With each sentence, hope flickered in his chest. Could he really do this? Could he mend the twisted threads of his past? They left the community center, and the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden rays that seemed to bless their newfound mission. Charles and Emma strategized over coffee, brewing plans for the renovation and community outreach. Each idea painted a picture of revival families gathering, laughter echoing once more. It was intoxicating. But once again, doubt clawed at him. What if Lily won't even consider meeting me? What if she only sees the man who abandoned her? Emma leaned in. You have to lay all your cards on the table. Be honest. It's about showing her the changes in your heart. This is bigger than money or status. It's about love and connection. Despite his fear, a flicker of determination ignited in Charles. He would reach out to Lily, no more hiding behind money and regret. Emma could feel the shift in him, a man finally ready to uncover himself, raw and vulnerable. The next day, he sat in front of his phone, his heart pounding as he stared at the screen. Finally, he tapped Lily's number, the one he had kept secured in his contacts for years, always too afraid to use it. It rang and rang, each chime pounding like a drum in his chest until her voice finally cut through the silence. Dad? Tears threatened to spill from his eyes. Lily. It's me. Can we talk? Why now? She replied, a mixture of anger and hope intertwined in her voice. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. This was at the pivot point between a past filled with remorse and the chance for healing, understanding, and ultimately, love. But would she be willing? As his heart raced, he could hear Emma's words echoing in his mind, it's about love and connection. But before he could answer her, the line went quiet. Had he lost her again? In that moment, he realized with startling clarity, the choice to change wasn't just his, it was theirs. What if this call opened a door, but what if it also closed one? Charles braced himself as the uncertainty loomed. He was ready, but was she? With a deep breath, he prepared for whatever came next, knowing that the true journey was just beginning. Would it lead them to healing or further heartbreak? He exhaled softly, the stillness on the line stretching out, thick and heavy. Would she hang up? Would it be like the countless times before, when their conversations had slipped through his fingers like grains of sand? Panic rose in his throat, but a part of him knew this was the moment of truth. Lily? His voice cracked, barely a whisper. Why now? She asked again, and he could almost see her brace herself for hurricane-level emotions. Because I've finally realized that money isn't everything. I've been so caught up in my own life that I forgot everything I've lost, especially you, he admitted, his heart pounding against his chest. I know I made mistakes, and I can't change the past. But I'm trying to change now. I'm trying to be a better man, a better father. Silence reigned again, but this time, curiosity mixed with caution filled the air. The tension in his chest eased a little. Can we meet? I want to listen to you, to understand how I can make things right if you'll let me. Why should I? Lily's voice cut through the stillness, a sharp blade of hurt laced in her words. You walked away when I needed you the most. I know. I know it doesn't just magically go away, he said, urgency building in his voice, but I'm here ready to make amends. You deserve that. I'm not asking for forgiveness right now. I want to earn it, if you'll give me a chance. Why should I trust you? She interjected, fear mingling with the anger, her heart likely battling the desire to let him in and the fear of getting hurt again. Because I'm not that man anymore, he said, his voice steady, honesty pouring out of every word. I've seen what I've sacrificed, what I missed out on. This isn't just about me, it's about you, Lily. It always should have been. The line fell quiet again, but this time he could sense the shift. He could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, the conflict between pain and longing surfacing. What about the community center? She finally asked, wariness peeking through her words. What is it to you? It was forgotten, just like I've allowed you to be. But I'm willing to do the work, to bring it back to life. Because I want to reconnect, not just with the community but with my daughter, he said with fervor, the weight of all those unshared dreams heavy with promise in his voice. Reconnecting doesn't change the past. You can't fix years of hurt with one building. No, I can't, he acknowledged, but I want to rebuild every moment we lost. One step at a time. A long pause. Would she agree? Where would we even meet? She finally asked, and his heart lifted at the question. There was potential in that inquiry, a hint of willingness. Anywhere you want. How about that coffee shop by the river? The one with all the old photos? He offered, hoping nostalgia would soften the jagged edges of their history. Fine. Tomorrow at 3. He nearly dropped his phone in disbelief. Okay, he breathed, feeling a rush of relief and hope. Thank you for giving me this chance. Before he could say more, she clicked off, the abrupt end leaving him suspended between hope and apprehension. Tomorrow. Tomorrow he would meet her, the future simmering with a tender promise wrapped in layers of uncertainty. As he stared out of his window, watching the sunset, the way the sky melted into colors of orange and purple, he felt something awaken inside him, an ember of determination. This was the start of something bigger than himself. Whether it led to healing or heartbreak, every step mattered. But as he prepared for the unknown journey ahead, a thought struck him with sudden force. Could a moment of truth, once shared, be enough to change everything? With his heart full of hope, he realized that their true story was just beginning. The next day dawned with a chill that hung in the air, sharp and invigorating. As he dressed, his hands felt unsteady, the weight of the moment pressing down like a heavy cloak. He fumbled with his tie, each pull a reminder of the significance this day held for him. Here he was, about to face the daughter he had lost, and the thought alone made his heart race. Arriving at the coffee shop by the river felt surreal. The familiar old building stood sturdy, and the sound of laughter mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. He could imagine her walking through those doors, a tether from the past sparking with possibility. He settled at a table by the window, nerves dancing like butterflies in his stomach as he sipped his coffee, trying to calm himself. The familiar photographs on the walls captured moments of joy and community made him smile but also deepened the ache in his heart. This place was a symbol of connection, and he had let that slip away. At precisely 3 o'clock, the door swung open, and a gust of wind swept in, followed by Lily. She was as he remembered, but older, more poised, shadows of hurt lingering just beneath her surface. Their eyes met, and for a brief second, the world around them faded. He stood, feeling the gravity of the moment, and gestured toward the chair across from him. "Hi," he said, his voice barely breaking the tension that filled the space between them. "Hi," she replied, sitting down. Her gaze was piercing, scanning him as if determining whether she could trust the man before her. He swallowed hard, fighting the urge to spill every apology he had stowed away over the years. Instead, he opted for honesty, the kind that exposed his vulnerabilities. "I know this isn't easy, and I don't want to make it harder. I just want you to know I'm sorry." She crossed her arms, taking a deep breath. "Sorry doesn't change what happened, does it?" "No," he admitted, "but it's a start. I need you to know that I didn't just walk away. I got lost in my own head, drowning in regrets." He paused, searching for the right words. "Every day I've thought about you. About losing you. And that is something I can't undo." She blinked, the emotions playing across her face, insecurity wrestling against deep-seated anger. "It's hard to believe you suddenly care now. After all this time." "I get that," he said, leaning forward. "But I'm here to prove it. I want to do more than just talk. I want to start fixing the community center. It's a place where so much of our life happens. Where you grew up. If I can help bring it back, then maybe I can show you that I'm serious about this." He watched as her walls lowered slightly, a flicker of intrigue lighting up her eyes. What do you really hope to gain from this? Connection, he replied earnestly. I want to be truly present, to build a relationship with you the right way this time. A silence fell, heavy with possibilities. Lily stared at her coffee, the steam swirling up like questions unspoken. He felt a mix of fear and hope coursing through him. This was just the beginning, and he had so much more to say. But then she looked up, and he saw a struggle within her, a tug-of-war between what she wanted to believe and the hurt she had carried for so long. Okay, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Let us see if you're really willing to do the work. But it won't be easy, he nodded, feeling a warmth spreading through him, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the night. This was his chance. And as they began to discuss the plans for the community center, he couldn't help but wonder, could a fragile moment of sincerity be the bridge to all they had lost? Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but today was a stepping stone towards hope, even if it came shrouded in uncertainty. The more they talked, the lighter the air between them felt. Ideas flowed about the community center, about how they could revitalize the space into something functional again. It was an exhilarating ground to build on, a common goal igniting new energy in what had once been a void. I was thinking maybe we could set up community events, he suggested, trying to keep the conversation focused on what mattered most. Something to get families involved again. We could have movie nights, art classes. Lily's brow furrowed slightly, but a hint of a smile tugged at her lips. You mean those cheesy movie marathons with popcorn everywhere? Absolutely. The kind that makes you nosedive into your chair when it gets scary. That's what it's all about. He chuckled, and for a moment, they shared laughter. It felt good. It filled the space that had been heavy and strained only moments before. Maybe, she mused, tapping her fingers against her coffee cup. But those kinds of events take a lot of work, and you're talking about not just showing up but really digging in. Are you ready for that? More than ever, he replied, sincerity lacing his words. I want to change my past mistakes into something positive. I want you to know I'm here to stay, to be part of this community again. As the excitement surged between them, shadows of doubt remained in her eyes. Just promise me you won't vanish again if things get tough, she said quietly. I promise, he said, a deep resolve settling in his chest. I'm not going anywhere this time. Lily nodded, as if weighing his words. They made tentative plans, tossing around ideas like leaves in the wind, each suggestion drawing them closer. Hours felt like minutes, and he watched as she began to let others see the passionate side of her he had missed for so long. This wasn't just work, it felt like the revival of their connection. When they wrapped up, the sun cast a golden hue outside, bathing the world in warmth. It was a stark contrast to the chill of the morning. As they stood to leave, he felt a sense of urgency to hold on to the moment, to grasp her hand in a way that would melt the distance that had grown for too long. But he feared overstepping, and so he let the connection linger in the air, full of unspoken promises. Outside, they stepped into the bustling street, the vibrant life surrounding them a stark realization of just how far apart they'd been for years. The rhythmic sound of footsteps, laughter, and car horns echoed in the background, weaving into a tapestry of life that felt so distant to him before today. Can we do this again? He asked, anticipation fluttering in his chest. Yeah, she replied, her expression brightening just enough to ease the worry. I think we could build something together. As they parted ways, he watched her walk away, her figure swallowed by the crowd. Hope bubbled within him, but so did an unshakable fear that this fragile moment could slip through his fingers like sand. What if she changed her mind? What if the hurt was too deep to bear? Despite those questions gnawing at the edges of his thoughts, he refused to sink into despair. Today, he had taken a step toward healing, and that had to mean something. But as night fell, everything felt so uncertain. Would she really trust him again with her heart? And just like that, his resolve solidified. He would fight for her trust. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities, and the community center was only the beginning. What transformations awaited them as they ventured further down this path together? The sun rose, painting the town in vibrant hues of orange and pink. Today felt different, charged with possibility. He woke up with a sense of purpose that had long eluded him. Caleb had a plan. After a quick breakfast, he grabbed his old notebook, its pages weathered and filled with half-formed thoughts about the community center. Each scribble represented a desperate attempt to capture ideas and hopes for a place that once brimmed with laughter and kinship. Caleb arrived early at the center, heart racing as he surveyed the hollow building. It needed life, and he was determined to breathe it back in. He set to organizing the clutter, opening windows wide to let in the crisp morning air. Dust particles danced in the shafts of light, and he felt a rush of excitement with each task he tackled. Just as he was getting into a groove, he heard footsteps. Lily walked in, her hair catching the sun in a golden halo. The sight of her made his heart skip. She was dressed casually, with an apron thrown over her clothes, ready to get her hands dirty. "I thought I'd check in," she said, smiling. "Glad you did," he replied, trying to contain his enthusiasm. "I was thinking we could put together a plan for the first event today, maybe outline what we want to achieve." "Good idea," she said, her eyes lighting up as she stepped forward. They began brainstorming again, feeding off each other's ideas like a growing wildfire. They discussed family game nights, art fairs, and potlucks. Caleb chased the spark of hope that glimmered in Lily's eyes, knowing that it was intertwined with his own desire for redemption. As they worked, laughter punctuated their conversation, the way it had on that previous day. Caleb couldn't help but notice how naturally they flowed together, like pieces that had been missing but were now fitting perfectly back into place. "Wait, what if we incorporated a talent show?" he suggested, a wild grin on his face. "Open it up for all ages. Everyone has a hidden talent, and why not let them showcase it?" Lily chuckled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Can you imagine the awkwardness of it all? I love it." They spent the next hours planning, sketching ideas onto a whiteboard. Each doodle and word ignited a sense of urgency in Caleb, a fierce determination to reclaim what he had lost. It was about more than the events, it was about finding his way back to her, proving that he could be the man she deserved. As the afternoon sun began to fade, deep shadows crept into the room. There was an unspoken tension hanging thick between them, a hesitation that begged to be addressed. Lily hesitated, biting her lower lip. "This is all wonderful, but let us not get ahead of ourselves. What if this doesn't work out? What if people don't come?" The doubt clawed at him, but he wasn't going to let it take root. He stepped closer to her, a flicker of determination crossing his face. "But what if it does work? What if we bring this community back to life?" Her gaze softened, vulnerability peeking through her tough exterior. "What if I fail you again?" He could feel the weight of her words, the fear that gripped her heart. Yet, amidst that uncertainty, a bond was forming, one anchored in shared dreams and whispered fears. He reached out, resting his hand on hers. "We'll figure it out together," he said, voice steady. "I'm not going anywhere this time." Lily looked at him, and in that moment, he saw a glimmer of hope battling against her insecurities. Maybe this was the plan that they needed together, through all the uncertainties. As they stood there, a silence filled the room, charged with possibility. The future beckoned brightly beyond the walls of the old community center, with the promise of renewed connections. But just as he felt that spark waking up again, a sharp beeping sound shattered the moment. Caleb's phone rang, cutting through their precious silence. It was a number he didn't recognize, but the urgency in the ringtone sent a rush of unease through him. "Excuse me, I need to get this," he said, heart hammering in his chest. As he stepped away to answer, he took one last look at Lily, worried about what awaited him on the other end. What news could disrupt this fragile moment they were trying to build? Every second felt heavy with foreboding as he answered the call, his heart racing. "Hello," he said, dread pooling in his stomach as he waited for a response. What if this call changed everything? "Caleb?" The voice on the other end was familiar but distant, laced with urgency. It was his brother, Jacob. "I know this is out of the blue, but I need your help." A wave of confusion washed over him. "Help with what? Is everything okay?" "It's Dad. He's in the hospital. The doctors say it's serious." Jacob's voice was tight with worry. The words hit Caleb like a punch to the gut. A numbness settled over him, pushing away their plans for the community center. Memories raced through his mind: late-night talks with his father, the warmth of summer barbecues, and the lessons learned on family hikes. But now all that seemed overshadowed by a growing dread. "I'm on my way," he managed to say, his voice steady but his heart betraying him with every beat. He turned back to Lily, confusion and angst painting his features. "I have to go," he said, the words tumbling out before he even processed them. "My dad, he's in the hospital." Her expression shifted. "Oh no, Caleb." I know it's abrupt," he interrupted, guilt weighing on him. "But I really need to be with my family right now." Lily's face fell, and he could see that she wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but the distance between them grew as he backed away, phone still pressed to his ear. "I'll call you as soon as I know more." He left the community center, each step heavier than the last. The sun had mellowed into a hazy glow, but it felt like shadows were flooding his heart. Moments earlier, he had stood on the cusp of something promising with Lily, a chance to revive not only the center but perhaps their own relationship too. Now, the specter of family duty loomed larger than anything he could have imagined. Caleb drove to the hospital, his mind racing. He replayed every moment with his father, every encounter etched with significance. Caleb had spent so long buried in work and the idea of starting over that he had almost forgotten the sheer weight of familial love and obligation. Arriving at the hospital, he felt a storm of emotions raging inside him: fear, anger, guilt. He hurried through the sterile corridors, each white wall a reminder of the fragility of life. Jacob stood in the waiting room, his face pale and drawn, eyes scanning the ground as if searching for answers. Upon seeing Caleb, his weary eyes brightened with a flicker of relief. "I'm glad you're here," he said quietly. "Give me the details," Caleb urged, sensing the distance of unspoken fears between them. He collapsed at the sight. "The doctors say his heart isn't functioning properly. They're running tests now," but Jacob trailed off, the gravity of his words hanging heavy in the air. Caleb rubbed the back of his neck, feeling a mix of helplessness and anger. "Do they have a plan?" "They say they're doing everything they can." But Jacob's voice trembled, uncertainty punctuating his thoughts. "What if it's bad, Caleb? What if?" They stood there, two brothers on the brink of a family crisis, struggling through the haze of what might be lost. Caleb fought back his own fears. "We don't know yet. Let us wait for the doctors." But as they waited, anxiety gnawed at him. Caleb couldn't shake the thought of what had been left undone. He thought of Lily, of the community center, and the flicker of hope they had ignited. As he stared into the bleak hospital lights, a feeling deepened: could he reconcile the pieces of his life? Could he bring solace to his family while also breathing life into that which he had started with Lily? In that moment, Caleb felt a thunderous rush of uncertainty. He was at a crossroads, love, family, responsibility all clamoring for his attention. All he could hope was that when this storm passed, he might still have a chance to fight for what mattered most, both at the hospital and back at the community center. But just then, a doctor entered the waiting room, face solemn, and Caleb's heart sank. What news lay ahead? The doctor approached, his steps slow and deliberate, like a metronome ticking toward an inevitable resolution. Caleb felt his breath hitch in his throat as he caught a glimpse of the man's white coat, the very fabric of authority and hope, yet now it felt like a shroud. "Mr. and Mrs. Walker?" he asked, scanning Jacob and Caleb with a serious expression. "Can we speak in private?" Caleb's heart raced. Is it bad? The question slipped out before he could swallow it down. The doctor paused. I can't provide all the answers yet, but we need to discuss your father's condition. Jacob clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. Caleb knew the weight of that moment, how the simple act of stepping into that small room could change everything. They followed the doctor into a small conference room, its sterile atmosphere suffocating. Caleb's mind was swirling. He retreated to his thoughts, mentally reaching back to all the good memories with his dad teaching him how to ride a bike, fishing trips where they caught nothing but still had a great time, their conversations that spanned both laughter and tears. When the door clicked shut, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on him like a heavy blanket. The doctor took a seat across from them. Your father has suffered a heart attack. There's damage, but we're working to stabilize him. However, he will need a significant lifestyle change moving forward: diet, exercise, stress management. Is he going to be okay? Caleb forced the words out, the steady cadence of his voice almost unconvincing to himself. The doctor cleared his throat, his gaze steady. It's too soon to tell just how much damage is done. But the next 24 hours are critical. Caleb didn't know if he could handle more waiting. The thought of losing his father sent a fresh wave of sadness surging through him. We need to see him. Of course, the doctor nodded, rising from his chair. But I recommend you prepare yourselves. They walked down the hallway in silence, dread wrapping around them like vines. Caleb glanced at Jacob. His brother's face remained stoic, but Caleb could see the flicker of vulnerability hidden in his eyes. Do you think he knows? Jacob asked, almost in a whisper. Knows what? Caleb responded, though he feared he knew the answer. Knows that we're struggling. Jacob sighed. That someone might not be there for him when he wakes up. Caleb paused. We're here now, he said, trying to inject some reassurance into the moment. We can't change the past, but we can be here for him now. The door to the room where their father lay came into view, and Caleb felt his throat swell. Deep breaths, he reminded himself. For his dad. They pushed the door open. Lying there in the hospital bed was the man who had been their anchor, his chest rising and falling with the rhythm of machines, tubes snaking around him like unwelcome vines. Caleb felt tears prick at the back of his eyes. There he was, the embodiment of their shared history, now fragile and vulnerable. Hey, Dad, he whispered, stepping closer. The warmth of familial love swirled in the air, mixed with the sterile scent of antiseptics. Caleb. His father murmured, eyes fluttering open. There was confusion and pain etched across his brow, but in that moment, Caleb could see a glimmer of recognition. I'm here, Caleb said, his voice breaking slightly. I'm right here. As they embraced, Caleb thought about the road ahead. The fragility of life had never felt more real, but he also understood that this was a moment they could turn into strength. Love could heal, or so he hoped. What he didn't expect was how the urgent call from Lily would haunt him, what could have been, what still could be. Suddenly, a nurse bustled in, and everything shifted again. We need to run some tests. As they stepped back, Caleb glanced at Jacob. What now? Jacob nodded toward their father. We stand by. We fight for him. Caleb's heart sang with a newfound resolve. Yet, a heavy burden lingered on his mind. Would he have the strength to navigate this with Lily as well? The thought lingered in the air. How? Would their journey reshape who they were as individuals and as a family? The uncertainty clung to him, and he couldn't shake it. What if healing meant more than just mending hearts? As they stood there, the weight of the moment settling in, Caleb felt the stirrings of conflict looming ahead. Would coming together as a family rewrite his promises with Lily and the community center? Then, with the sound of heart monitors beeping steadily in the background, he knew his battle wasn't just with his father's health. It was with the life he had built and the life he was still figuring out. What decisions would he have to make when time was running out? And as he looked back at his father, that certainty made him hold on. Because in the maelstrom of it all, he could only hope. Caleb stood frozen in the hospital room, tension crackling in the air like static. The nurse moved quickly, but he felt the world slowing down, each second dragging as if it were reluctantly stepping forward. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were in a waiting game, not just for his father's recovery, but for him to confront everything else in his life. Caleb Jacob's voice seeped through his thoughts, pulling him back. "We need to talk. Just us." Caleb took a deep breath, feeling an urge to cling to their father despite the chaos. But Jacob's eyes held a determination that spoke volumes. They stepped back into the stark hallway, away from the beeping monitors and the sight of their father's frail body. "What's on your mind?" Caleb asked as they huddled in a small alcove, shadows flickering from the fluorescent lights above. "Do we need to get ready for the worst?" Jacob's face was a mask of worry but underlined by a fierce resolve. "If Dad doesn't come back, we need to be prepared. We can't let him go without honoring everything he has built." Caleb nodded slowly, his heart heavy. "He's going to need us, no matter what happens. But how do we even begin to talk about that?" "I think we should talk to Mom," Jacob said, his voice lowered instinctively as if saying the words aloud would somehow make it true. "She's been distant, all wrapped up in her own worries." Caleb rubbed a hand over his face, trying to clear his thoughts. Their mother had been struggling ever since their dad's health started to decline. He felt an ache for her as well. But the idea of encountering her pain alongside their own felt like a mountain to climb. "Okay," Caleb said finally, "but we have to be gentle. She may freak out. This is hard on everyone." Jacob sighed, his shoulders dropping. "It's going to change everything, you know. Just look at us standing here, both trying to hold it together. What if we can't?" Caleb met his brother's gaze, urging strength to rise within him. "We can't control everything. But we can control how we react. We lean on each other like we always have." They slowly maneuvered back towards their father's room, Caleb's heart hammering in his chest. The memories of their childhood flooded him again, family dinners filled with laughter, watching their father work late into the night, his determination as strong as the love he provided. "Dad is a fighter. He always has been. He taught us that," Caleb reminded Jacob, though he said it more for himself. He believed it, especially now. Just then, a voice interrupted their hushed conversation. It was the nurse again, a look of urgency in her features. "Mr. Walker. We need you both in the waiting area. There's something we need to discuss." Caleb's stomach dropped. He exchanged a glance with Jacob, their expressions mirroring dread. Suddenly, the hope they clung to felt silenced by the ominous tone of her words. As they entered the waiting area, the smell of coffee and antiseptic filled their nostrils. They watched as other families sat adjacent, some with heads bowed, others with anxious fingers tapping restlessly. It was a bleak reminder of the fragility of life, and Caleb felt the pressure in his chest build anew. "Let's brace ourselves," Jacob whispered, taking a deep breath. "Right," Caleb nodded. They sat opposite the nurse, who was now joined by the doctor. The expression on the doctor's face was serious, everything about his posture screamed news that wouldn't carry well. No. They had to be strong, for their dad, for all they'd once shared. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. But then the doctor began to speak, and Caleb wondered if they were ready for what was about to unfold. What could the doctor possibly say that would rewrite everything they clung to? The doctor's words hung heavy in the air, a palpable weight that gripped Caleb's heart. "Your father is stable for now," he began, his tone measured but calm. Caleb's breath caught, a momentary flicker of hope swelling in his chest. "However, we've determined that he requires immediate cardiac surgery to address the damage done during the heart attack. We need your consent to proceed." The room buzzed with tension. While Caleb felt a rush of relief at the mention of stability, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily. "How serious is the surgery?" he managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. "We believe it's the best option for his recovery," the doctor replied, maintaining a professional demeanor. "That said, any surgery carries risks. We want to be upfront about the potential complications." Caleb exchanged a glance with Jacob, whose worry mirrored his own. "What kind of risks?" Jacob pressed, his voice steady despite his obvious anxiety. "Everything from infection to heart complications. But I assure you that our team is highly trained, and we have the best resources available," the doctor explained, his professionalism both reassuring and daunting. Caleb's pulse quickened. He was teetering on the edge of an emotional precipice. Would their father pull through? Could he conquer this challenge like he had so many before? "What if we decline?" he asked, knowing he had to voice the unthinkable. The doctor paused, letting the silence linger like a dark cloud. "If the surgery doesn't happen, his prognosis will worsen significantly. This is a critical point." Caleb's heart ached. There it was, the harsh reality they had feared. He felt torn inside, wrestling with memories of happier times, of Sunday dinners and family hikes. "We need to do it," he said finally, looking at Jacob, who nodded in agreement. "Okay," Jacob said with a deep breath. "Let us do this." Their resolve felt both terrifying and comforting, a fragile strength formed between brothers. After signing the necessary paperwork, they were led back to their father's room. He lay in the hospital bed, a vulnerable figure under white sheets, his chest rising and falling steadily. The machines buzzed around him, a reminder of the battle he was facing. "Hey, Dad," Caleb called softly, moving closer, his heart swelling with nostalgia and hope. "We're here." His father's eyes fluttered open, confusion quickly replaced by clarity. "Caleb? Jacob?" His voice was hoarse, filled with the echoes of their shared pain. "We're right here, Dad," Jacob reassured him, stepping closer, his voice steady. "We talked to the doctors. They're going to perform surgery. You're going to get better." Their father's brow furrowed, concern creeping back into his expression. "Is it serious?" "It's a big step, but we believe it's the right one," Caleb said, trying to exude the confidence he didn't feel. "You've always been a fighter, Dad. You can get through this." His father nodded slowly, the weight of the situation reflecting in his eyes. "I'm scared," he admitted, vulnerability breaking through his stoic exterior. "Hey," Caleb said, his voice firm yet tender, "you've overcome so much already. We believe in you. We'll be right here waiting for you." The love pouring from his heart felt raw and visceral. "Thank you, boys. For being here." Their father's voice cracked, emotion tightening the air around them, binding them. A nurse entered, bustling but respectful, ready to prep their father for surgery. "It's almost time," she said gently, her demeanor calm. As they stood there, Caleb felt his own heart swell with gratitude for the life they shared. Moments later, they exchanged solemn goodbyes, the gravity of love and fear binding them together in a way that felt transformative. Caleb squeezed his father's hand before he was rolled away, a sense of urgency building in him. The waiting began. Hours stretched on like days, and they passed time in the waiting area, sharing stories, semi-fond memories, and embracing the heaviness of the situation. They whispered their fears, their hopes, and slowly, they began to consider the future. What life would look like beyond the hurdles that stood in their way. "Do you think he'll wake up?" Jacob asked, his voice cracking, vulnerability spilling forth amid the cautious optimism. "He has to," Caleb said vehemently. "We'll be right here, helping him build a new life. He will see everything he has done, his legacy. He fought for us. We've got a lot waiting for him," Jacob added, determination flickering in his eyes. "The community center. Mom. Everything we've been fighting for, all those dreams." Caleb felt his heart leap. Beyond the confines of the hospital, a new chapter was forming, one steeped in love and community. "Tomorrow," he said, buoyed by the possibility. We'll both be there. Not just for him, but for each other. Just like he always taught us. Then, the door opened, and the doctor entered, a mix of relief and exhaustion evident in his demeanor. The surgery went well, he announced, a spark of joy igniting in their weary hearts. He is stable and in recovery. It will take time, but we're hopeful. The surge of relief released an avalanche of emotions, washing over both brothers like cleansing rain. Caleb felt tears well in his eyes, joy shining through the layers of fear they had faced. "Thank you," Jacob said, emotion weighing heavy in his voice. As they embraced, Caleb saw hope on the horizon, a flickering light growing brighter, illuminating the path they needed to take. Family bonds had reformed, strengthened through tribulation, and nestled deep in their hearts lay the goodness they could work to restore in their father's life, their lives, and even Lily's. Through the hospital lights glimmering as the world outside faded into dusk, the future unfurled. They would rebuild. Tomorrow, as dawn broke, there was hope that they could turn their collective scars into a legacy filled with laughter, love, and connection together. And as they stood there in shared silence, Caleb knew this journey was just beginning. His phone buzzed suddenly, alerting him to a message. It was from Lily. "Thinking of you." He smiled through his tears. Hope was blooming in every corner of his life, and there was work to do, both in the community center and in the hearts they longed to heal. But for now, one step at a time, they would face it all together. And you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait not even one more second.